Extroverts tend to talk loudly, quickly, and excitedly. Introverts tend to speak quietly and more slowly. Perhaps you're worried you won't stand out enough to accompany interviewing tons of people. A sure way to stand out from the crowd is to use the serial position effect. This is based on the idea that people tend to remember the first and last parts of things, and not much of the middle. If you're talking to someone whose eyebrows are raised and curved, they're clearly surprised to hear what you're saying. The higher the eyebrows go, the more surprised they must be. If you frown, people will naturally try to defend, and this subconsciously sets them against you. When you smile, you show the other person that you're happy to talk to them, and that makes them relax and be more attentive to you.
The ability to control your emotions is an important step towards successful public speaking. Your self-consciousness shouldn't stand in your way when you're trying to express your point of view and make it clear to everyone.
Whatever your friend or date just said, paraphrase it and say it back to them. It will tell them that you've really been listening to them and paying attention, because you have been. This is a great way to have a terrific and honest conversation. Crossed hands or legs mean this person is closed for conversation or is really anxious. You may want to avoid them, or better yet, soothe them with something nice like a cup of tea. What are they wearing? If they look more polished, this person is probably there to impress.
When you are trying too hard to impress people, you aren't likely to show your true self. Subconsciously, people will feel your insincerity and won't fall for your performance. This paradox can probably be explained by the law of reversed effort.
Multiple studies show that being confident is more important than being physically attractive. An interesting study published in the International Journal of Cosmetic Science proved that men who were given some cologne looked visibly more attractive in photos taken afterward.
Have you ever complained about poor product choices at the grocery store? Well, even those options that you do have might be too many for you. When you have too many alternatives, your brain freezes and fails to make a final decision.
The giggle. It's what you do to suppress laughter every now and then. And everybody does it, not just teenage girls. If you do it when the moment is clearly not right to crack up, that's called politeness. But if a person has a habit of stopping themselves from LOLing, it could be a sign that they're suppressing something besides laughter, like nervousness, or maybe the joke wasn't that funny, just saying. If someone keeps their hand around their mouth in a conversation, they probably have something to hide. Guffawing is easily the most contagious form of laughter. You could call it the real-life equivalent of the iconic online LOL. Individuals who have this deep belly laugh are extroverted and sociable. If the person is looking up and to the right, don't believe everything they say. It's likely they're making up something to tell you. How was your day? The weather was good today, right? Have you heard the news? And by the way, I want a pay raise. You can see how fishy that sounds. People are smart, and you won't trick anyone like that. So the first point you make in a conversation should be about what you want to get.
Eye contact is often underestimated when it comes to public speaking. People usually get so nervous that they just look at the wall right in front of them, trying not to get distracted. Don't repeat this mistake ever again. Eye contact makes a conversation come to life, and everyone in the audience will feel like you're talking to them personally.
Pick a random word or phrase, and every time the other person uses it, or something close to it, smile and nod. If the other person keeps using that word or phrase, that means they like you. Just one word can make the difference between whether or not someone trusts you. In one study, participants heard several recordings of just the word hello. Women said that men who said hello with a deep pitch on the end of the word sounded more trustworthy. In the reverse, men said they put more trust into the recordings of people that put a higher pitch on the end of the word. It's all about that pitch. Is their style more casual? This could mean that they're relaxed. Revealing clothing can be a sign that they feel the need for attention and like pushing boundaries.
Your mind can play some pretty cruel tricks on you. For example, if you expect something to be difficult, you unconsciously overcomplicate things.
It's a fact discovered by a study commissioned by Ladbrokes. Men do have selective hearing. They can listen attentively to their female partners for 6 minutes only. But this time more than doubles to 15 minutes when they are talking to their male friends. Before you start blaming men for their lack of attention, you should know that women also pay more attention to conversations with their friends rather than with their romantic partners.
Who doesn't like to think that they make conscious and rational decisions based on factual analysis? Unfortunately, nothing is that simple. Almost all your choices are made through unconscious mental processing.
Do you remember feeling close to your teammates back on the soccer or baseball team in grade school? That's because being active with someone can help you form stronger bonds more quickly. So, if you're in a new relationship or starting a friendship with someone, instead of going to the movies or out to eat, try doing an activity together that can get your blood pumping. You're in the middle of telling something you find really interesting. How do you know if someone is sharing this interest and if you succeeded in catching their attention? They will subconsciously lean towards you. If you know one of these ROFLers, keep that person in your life and never let them go. Such people have bright personalities and they're trustworthy. They aren't afraid to show you how they really feel and will never lie to you or let you down. If they close their eyes during a conversation, it's an attempt to protect themselves from what's going on. Sorry, but they most likely don't enjoy your company and want to unsee you. Being punctual and honoring your commitments can't go unnoticed, and people tend to respect this kind of attitude more than any unnecessary heroic efforts or even personal favor.
How many people do you know that can listen to you without interrupting? Not that many, right? That's why we appreciate good listeners so much, and the earlier you develop this helpful skill, the better.
When a group of you is together and laughing, pay attention to who looks at you the most and who you're looking at as well. While people laugh, they tend to look at who they feel they have the closest bond with. This may sound bizarre, but if people close their eyes and hear you speak, they can probably tell if you're tall or short. Taller people tend to have a deeper voice, whereas shorter people tend to have a higher voice. This is true for both men and women. When someone is puffed up and a little too confident, this could mean a big ego. As for those who are a little more indecisive and deflated, they probably have a low self-esteem and a real lack of self-confidence. If a person simply holds their head high, they've got pure confidence.
Vulnerability is an amazing thing. When you aren't afraid to demonstrate it and feel comfortable about not being ideal, people tend to think that you're perfect. Just another paradox of the human mind, I guess.
Very often, we get a song we don't even like stuck in our heads. There is an easy trick to get rid of the annoyance. Listen to the song until the very end to achieve a sense of closure.
Emotional pain activates the same regions of your brain as physical pain does. This means that if your coworkers forget to invite you to a party, you'll feel as if they have physically hit you.
While you're talking and getting to know each other, try to point out something you both have in common. Maybe you grew up in the same town, or you both have the same alma mater. By doing this, the person you're speaking to will base their assumptions off this commonality. If someone is always nearby but looks away the same moment you look at them, they still might be listening. Look at which ear they're turned to you. If it's always the same, they're paying attention. Maybe it's the best moment to introduce yourself. The wheeze. It usually happens to people who are boisterous laughers, but for some reason, they have to restrain themselves from letting it out. Wheezers have a great sense of humor, but they prefer to hide it to seem more serious and professional. If the person is holding eye contact for longer than 7 to 10 seconds, which is normal, and especially if they aren't blinking, think twice before trusting what they're telling you. Like it or not, people always form their first impression from the most accessible source, which is how you look. Choose a style that will be appropriate for this kind of conversation. No need to discuss your relationship wearing a suit, you know.
Leave soft speech to private talks and hanging out with your BFFs. You should be a powerful force on the stage, so speak loudly and project your voice when you are speaking in front of big groups or across larger spaces.
Yeah, we've all heard the most popular tried and true tricks of how to tell if someone is lying. If they don't make eye contact, if they're fidgety, etc. But how about this one? Someone is probably lying to you if they leave out what are called sensory details. Honest people will include explanations of how something sounded, smelled, looked, or felt like. And these are often the most important parts of the story. Hearing an adult speak slowly and calmly with a warm tone has a calming effect on children, and even on pets. Adults notice this too. If someone's voice sounds cold, tight, and abrupt, we might assume that this means they're unable to understand the feelings of others. It's not just in your head. Pay attention to where someone's body is leaning. We usually lean toward things we like and away from things we don't.
According to Carl Jung, a famous psychologist, if there's a trait that bothers you in others, it reflects those parts of you that you deny or feel insecure about. Thus, a man who criticizes others for their financial problems, or on the contrary, financial success, is most likely worried about his income.
If you want to be the master of your dreams and make them more vivid and easy to control, you have to start playing video games. The reason is that both video games and night dreams represent alternate realities.
Your memories aren't set in stone. You tend to reconstruct them every time you think of a particular memory. Imagine that a memory is a short video clip that's stored somewhere in your brain. Each time you return to this memory, certain nerve pathways fire anew, but these memories can change as a result of new events that happen in your life.
Cuticle picking and lip biting are not just bad habits. For some people, it's the only way to relax when they're really stressed. People who laugh under their breath find humor in things and situations that leave others wondering, what on earth are they laughing at? Snickerers are easygoing, smart, and witty. They have a ton of friends and make new ones in a matter of minutes. Who doesn't like a Hakuna Matata approach to life? Dilated pupils speak of a romantic interest in you or fear. Those feelings often go hand in hand. And if the pupils are smaller than normal, watch out, someone is getting angry. Don't push too hard with all the persuasion thing. It may make people feel uneasy and stressed. When you leave a choice, you show respect and willingness not to put a person in a bad situation.
Make it a habit to go through your text one more time before your speech. If there are any unknown words there, look them up or replace them with something easier. Your vocabulary also makes a difference. Learn 1 to 5 words daily and try to use them in your everyday life to memorize them better.
Say you're hosting a party and a group of people start arguing. It's getting pretty intense. What should you do? Go grab some food for them. Eating has a calming effect, and everyone loves a good snack. They'll subconsciously start to feel happier and more comfortable. When you feel confident and know what you're doing, you tend to raise the pitch of your voice when negotiating or debating with someone. Where are their wrinkles most pronounced? If their frown lines are exaggerated, it could mean lots of worry or stress. This person has probably had a tough life or a lot of responsibility at work. Both of these factors can have a real impact on a person's character.
There are people who believe you shouldn't trust others or rely on anyone. You'll only be let down. On top of that, you shouldn't invoke trust either.
It's hard to believe, but people with road rage tend to have a higher number of bumper stickers on their cars, regardless of their content.
You don't exactly read text the way you might think you do, despite what some researchers used to believe in the past. The brain doesn't focus on word shapes, it pays attention to letter shapes and sequences. First, you recognize the letters in a word, and then proceed to figure out the word as a whole, even if they're not in the right order.
If someone reacts to a joke with tilting their head back and then laughing, they may be trying to hide that their laughter is not really that genuine. When something especially comical happens, even the most serious and humble people can't help but laugh. Except they do it in their own peculiar way. It's their eyes that are laughing. Their mouth corners go up, but they make no sounds of laughter whatsoever. This is a clear sign that they don't want any attention, since they're introverts and like to keep their feelings to themselves. Looking down can be a sign a person's self-esteem is low. That, or they're feeling nervous or guilty. Even if no one's asking anything back from you, give a nod of appreciation to them. Even a small token gift will do great. When you're known as a grateful person, your reputation will start working for you.
Your body language and the way you gesticulate with your hands can also make or break your performance.
You know how yawns are contagious? Yeah, you can use that to your advantage. If you feel like someone is watching you, make yourself yawn. Make sure they see you do it. After your yawn, look and see if they're yawning too. If they are, now you know they've been watching you. Hey, maybe it's a crush. Simply raising your voice and talking over people in a sharp, cold way makes you sound like you're trying to cover up your lack of knowledge or experience, not someone people would trust to lead. During interactions, you might have a flash of insight about a person that hits you out of nowhere. Beware of these sudden alerts. They can be critical in helping you figure someone out.
You will probably agree that success comes through improvement, but improvement is closely connected with mistakes and failure. There's nothing wrong with trying again and again. You'll succeed eventually.
In 2011, a Dutch study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology saw the light of day. According to this research, silence becomes especially awkward if it disrupts the flow of conversation.
The next fact that might burst your bubble a little, but it's a truth of life. You're a very poor predictor. It turns out that people tend to overestimate their potential reactions to different future events. This is true both about negative and positive things that might happen.
If you spot someone laughing with their mouth wide open, but with perfectly serious eyes, that is, you don't see little wrinkles form on the outer corners, that's a mirthless or fake laugh. It's not possible to laugh with a stoic facial expression, at least not genuinely. This type will make an effort to produce that ha-ha sound so that they don't come off as rude. Corners of the lips drawn downward show the person is sad, even if they tell you otherwise. Saying someone's name in a conversation is the key point in establishing trustworthy relationships.
Fun fact, on average, we spend 23 hours a week texting. And when you text someone, you expect a quick response most of the time. Delaying may lead to missing opportunities.
If you ask someone a question and you feel like they're holding something back or not telling the whole story, keep nice long eye contact with them and stay quiet. The long and silent stare will make them uncomfortable, and they'll do anything to break that awkwardness. You'll get your answers in no time. If we're stressed out, our vocal cords tend to tighten. This will make your voice sound crackly and uneven. You might also stumble over your words. Overall, you'll sound like you have pretty disorganized speech. Humans, as social creatures, are programmed to have empathy. It's the instinctual reaction of feeling something that someone else is feeling. Whether it's a friend that's grieving a loss or one that's celebrating some victory, you just can't help but feel with them too.
This may not fit into your picture of a self-centered egotist, but people do treat others in the same way that they treat themselves. You might not notice it at first sight, but be sure that those who are rude, uncaring, and impolite to other people are just as negligent to themselves.
The color of the walls in your office can affect how productive you are. If you want a stimulating, mind-energizing environment, blue is the best color for you. Combining blue with orange will not only make you productive, but will also make your mind and emotions more balanced. This is an ideal combination for people who do mind work all day.
Our voices are as unique as we are, but the voices of people who are considered to be successful have a couple of things in common. Successful people's voices tend to be of a lower, warmer tone. Their words come out evenly, and their vocal cords won't be tight. They'll speak loudly enough to make themselves heard, but not so loudly that they're unpleasant to listen to. They'll be very aware of their voice and what it sounds like. If they touch or scratch their neck, they're likely insecure about something. Constantly rubbing their nose is a notorious cue that someone is lying or otherwise trying to be deceptive. Of course, this person might just have a really itchy face, but chances are slim.
The more convinced a person is that they are right, the less likely they are to know the subject. The problem is that many facts change over time, but an overly confident person isn't likely to check the truthfulness of something they think they know.
Have you ever noticed that if you look down at your phone, you aren't hearing what the person talking to you is saying? It's a clear sign that you're not listening. For people to pay attention to what you're saying, keep direct eye contact with them while you're talking. You'll see that your conversations will start becoming better and more engaging when you do this. Psychologists and sociologists have come up with something called the Dunbar's number, not Dumb and Dumber. The maximum number of people with whom a person can maintain close ties. So even if you have thousands of friends on Facebook, you can only have meaningful communication with 50 to 200 of them. One alarming sign your ideas won't be met with a round of applause is when people squint while listening to you. Squinting is a sign people don't trust what they hear and have lots of questions about that. In case a person is invading your private space and casually touching your elbow, forearm, or other body part during the handshake with a free hand, it's a sign they really need company. You decide how to react to it. Start a conversation with something like, "You know how important it is to me," or "I've been thinking about it for a long time." Show how important it is for you to get what you need. We often think that our desires are easily ignored, but it's not always the case. If you're honest about it, people will listen. Something called the Zeigarnik effect says that thinking about unfinished things or business usually lead to thoughts about other incomplete or unresolved problems. A creative person may not actually talk much because they're daydreaming, people-watching, or thinking deeply. But when they do talk, they certainly won't be boring to listen to. They'll have a wide vocabulary and will talk in an excited, animated way. The feet are said to be the most honest part of the body. So if it seems like your conversation partner is listening to you, but their feet are pointed towards the door, you should know that they're actually thinking about how they can get the heck out of there.
When you try to be as close as possible to another person, that's mostly your jealousy speaking. Such behavior can only make your partner feel obliged to love you and be loyal, and that's not a healthy relationship.
Keeping eye contact with someone can actually convince the person you're conversing with to believe what you're saying. This gives you some dominance in the conversation. You can even nod while you're making certain points to further prove how confident you are in what you're saying. Don't be surprised when you notice the other person nodding along with you. If you don't like the answer someone has given you, or it seems they're not telling you the whole story, just keep staring at them. In this situation, the silence will be so unbearable that they'll be ready to tell you anything just to end it. After all, the purpose of a stare is persuasion.
Our body makes sure that our feet can react right away if we sense a threat. It's a survival instinct. We keep our legs crossed when we feel comfortable, but we will instantly uncross them if a group of strangers enters so that we can quickly escape if necessary. Therefore, when a person feels bored, their feet will also be oriented toward the way out or toward another person.
Be careful if you go shopping in a bad mood, when you're tired, or if you feel scared. In this case, logos and brands will have the biggest effect on you.